Well, I must say that this is rather a tough one. But then, a durable solution to the civil war in Syria will be very hard to come by because multiple groups and states in and outside the region have starkly different political agendas and interests which will be nearly impossible to overcome. The four major players, that is the United States, Russia, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, in addition to the rebels and the Assad regime, still do not see eye to eye as to how to bring an end to the Syrian civil war, knowing, however, that the prolongation of the conflict will not be in their overall interests. Given the greatest humanitarian crisis since World War II, the continuing destruction of the country, the millions of Syrian refugees and internally displaced people, and the more than 300,000 casualties, there seems to be now a greater sense of urgency to find a political solution. I repeat, the ideal solution, in my view, rests on 5 pillars. One is the establishment of a representative government that should consist of proportionate representation of the demographic makeup of the country. The transitional government should remain in place for at least 5 to 7 years, during which it must concentrate, in my view, on building, rebuilding, rehabilitation, and reconciliation. During this period, the people will be granted the choice to establish political parties with a clearly stated political agenda so that the public will understand what the party stands for and what to expect. Now, following the transitional years, general elections should then be held and a new constitution should be written that guarantees human rights, equality before the law, and a freedom of movement and the press. Now, the government should be formed by the leader of the party that garners the relative or absolute majority of the electoral votes, who will then become the president and appoint his or her own government. This solution, unfortunately, will be a pipe dream because the countries that have vested strategic interest in Syria is Russia and Iran in particular, who are not likely to accept such a solution unless any future Syrian government commits to respect the strategic interests of both countries. It is only in this context will the fate of President Assad will be determined. That is, both Russia and Iran will continue to insist that Assad remain the president of the transitional government for at least 2 years, during which the two countries can further consolidate their foothold in the country. See, with or without such an arrangement, the solution to Syria's civil war will have to accommodate the political and on-the-ground interests of multiple conflicting parties. Tragically, this is where the nightmare resides. Having allowed the civil war to drag on for as long as it has, it may be impossible to put the country back together. One thing, however, is certain. The longer it takes to find a political solution, the more the disintegration of Syria becomes increasingly probable.